right. So looking at some decimals today. It's been a while since we've done them. For number 1, we're adding decimals. What is our rule when I'm adding decimals? Jakaria? Line the decimals up. So I'm going to go ahead and write 1.3. It was first, so I wrote it on top. I'm going to go ahead and put my decimal underneath in the correct place. Y'all see how my decimals are in a line. On the second number, what should be in front of my decimal? Braden? 5. And what's going to be behind the decimal? 9 and 7. Okay, so I'm going to pause here. Are there any questions so far on how I've set that up? Okay. What else do I need to do before I add these up? What do I need to do before I add them up? Carlos? Yeah, we're going to add a 0 in that empty spot above the 7 or behind the 3. And now we're ready to add them. 0 plus 7 is? 7. 3 plus 9 is? 12. Carry my 1. 1, 1, and 5? 7. And we're going to keep our decimal in a straight line. We can see the straight line formed by those. Is there anything else I need to do? Nope. There's my answer. All right, number 5 is subtracting decimals. What's our rule for subtracting decimals? Mary Webb? Line them up. Again, I'm not going to change the order. The first one stays on top. 5.903. I'm going to go ahead and put my decimal in a straight line underneath. For that second decimal, what's going to go in front of the second decimal? RJ? Nothing, a 0. So we're going to write 0. And behind it we have? 86. All right, do I need to add anything here before I subtract? Yes, I need a 0 again in that open space. Okay, so now 3 minus 0 is? 3. 0 minus 6? Can't do it, so we're going to borrow. 9 becomes? 8. 0 becomes? 10. So now 10 minus 6 is? 4. 8 minus 8? 0. 5 minus 0? All right, what do I have to make sure I put? The decimal. Make sure your decimal is in a straight line. Bringing it straight down. All right, any questions on number 2? All right, number 3, we're dividing. When I divide, how am I going to set that up? When I divide, how would I set it up? Just setting it up. Mary Webb?
You put the 2 and 36 in the house.
So the 2.36 goes in the house. Very good.
And the 0.4 goes in out the door.
And that 0.4 is at the door. Or you can just write 0.4 because the 0 in front is not important. All right, so I've got it set up. What are my rules for my decimals? What am I going to do for my decimals, Braden? Bolgar?
Move the decimal on the 4 over 1.
Move the decimal on the 4 over 1, so that makes it a whole. And then what about in the house? It just has to match, so we're going to move it 1 space over. Once I move it over 1 space, then what do I have to remember? Braden, Rubina? Raise it up. Okay, so that goes right up to the top. Okay. So now I'm just looking at 4. How many times will 4 go into 2? It won't do it. So we just don't put anything there. You can put a little X there to show that we did it. How many times will 4 go into 23? 5. So on top of the 3, we have 5. 5 times 4 is? 20. When I subtract, I get? 3. And let's bring down the 6. Okay, so now we're looking at 4 into 36. How many times will 4 go into 36? Hand, please. How many times can 4 go into 36? RJ? 9 times. And 4 times 9 is? 36. So we have nothing left over. Nothing is left over. So do I need to do anything else? There are no more numbers to bring down. There's nothing left over, so that's my answer. If there was something left over, what would I do? Add a 0 and keep going. All right. Questions about number 3? Y'all are doing awesome. All right, number 4, multiplying decimals. What is my rule when I'm multiplying decimals? Jakaria? Act like there's no decimal there. So that 84.3, I'm just going to write 843. The 0 in front of the decimal, does that matter? No, so I'm just going to write the 3, the 4, and the 5. Are y'all okay with that? All right, and we're multiplying this. Now, we're going to have to be really careful when we're lining everything up to make sure we don't lose track of anything. So 5 times 3 is? 15. Carry the 1. 5 times 4 is? 20 plus the 1? Carry the 2. And you notice I'm leaving a little extra space in there just to make sure my numbers line up easily. 5 times 8. 40 plus the 2. Again, leaving some spaces in between my numbers so it's easy to line them up. Okay, so that 2 and 1 are done. And we're done with 5. Before I multiply the 4, what do I need? 0 is a placeholder. So I have 0 underneath the 5. All right, 4 times 3 is? 12. So I'm going to put the 2 and then carry a 1. 4 times 4? 16 plus the 1? 17. Carry another 1. 4 times 8? 32 plus the 1? 33. Again, do y'all see how much space I'm putting there so it's easy to line them up? Okay, so I'm done with those 1s, done with the 4. Before I multiply the 3, what do I need? 2 zeros this time. So a 0 and a 0. All right, 3 times 3? 9, making sure that's underneath the 7. 3 times 4? 12, carrying the 1. 3 times 8? 24 plus the 1? 25. Okay, so now we're ready to add those up. 5, 0, and 0. 1, 2, and 0. 3. 2 and 7 is? 9, plus 9 more is? 18, carrying the 1. 1 and 4 gives me? 1 and 4 gives me 5. I want to go ahead and add that 1 that I'm carrying so I don't forget about it. So that's why I do it kind of from the top. So 1 and 4 is 5, plus 3 is 8, plus 2 more is 10. Carry that 1. Again, I like to do that the same thing. 1 and 3 is 4, then plus the 5, 9, and then 2. Just bring it down 2. All right. We got all of our numbers. That looks really nice. But how do I know where the decimal goes? How am I going to tell where the decimal goes? Christian? Behind the 29. So I have, if I look at the problem, 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers after the decimal. So I want to make sure I have 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers after the decimal in my answer. Okay, are there any questions about number 4 before we move on? All right, number 5, we got to fix it. Number 5, we need to fix it because it's on there twice. So we're going to change this to 236 divided by 0.4. So it didn't change a whole lot, but it did change a little. Did change a little bit. So let's make sure we've written that down. Make sure you've written down our new problem. What's going to be at the door? Yeah, I repeated it, so we just had to change it up a little. What's going to be at the door? What number's at the door, Peyton? 0.4, because that one was second. Remember, whatever is last is the one at the door. And then that means 239 is in the house. All right. To set this up, what do I have to do, Peyton?
Move the decimal right behind the 4 and then make a decimal before the 239.
Before the 239? After. So I moved this over once. Do I have a decimal in the house right now? No. So remember, it's like a period. You put it at the end of the number. There we go. And I'm going to move it over once. And then I can raise it up to the roof. What would go in that gap? What would I put in that gap? Braden? 0. Okay, so I'm going to pause here. Are there any questions on how I knew to add a 0? Because I didn't have enough numbers. All right, so now we're ready to divide. How many times will 4 go into 2? It won't. 0. I'm going to put a little X there. How many times will 4 go into 23? 5. 5 times 4 is? 20. When I subtract, I get 3. Okay, I made a mistake, but that's okay. We're going to keep working it the way it is. All right, so bring down the 9. I didn't mean to put a 9 there, but we're going to work it with a 9 there. See what happens. All right, 4 will go into 39 how many times? 9. So top of 9, we're writing 9. 9 times 4 is? 36. When I subtract, I get 3. Let's bring down a 0. How many times will 4 go into 30? 7 times. So 7 on top of the 0. 7 times 4 is? 28. When I subtract, I get 2. Right? I don't have any other numbers, so what do I have to do? Add a 0. We're just going to add our own 0 and bring it down. And you'll notice, guys, remember how I put that decimal up on the top at the end? If it's at the end of the number, cool, it doesn't really matter. But in this case, I'm going to have a 0 after that, so it will matter. All right, so how many times will 4 go into 20? 5. So when I put that 5, it needs to be on top of that extra 0, so it's after the decimal. Does everyone see where my decimal is there? Make sure your numbers are in the correct place. All right, 4 times 5 is 20. When I subtract, I get 0. Is there anything left on this problem? No. Okay. All right, number 6. For number 6, I'm adding. So I need to line up the decimals. That becomes a problem, doesn't it? Does 65 have a decimal?
No.
So how am I going to line up the decimal? Peyton?
Put at the bottom of 19. Oh no, you put a decimal and then put 2 or 2 zeros at the end.
Okay, so it's the number 65, right? Which is like a sentence. 65, period. Is there anything more? No. So remember, a decimal and a period look the same because decimals are periods in math. Okay, 65, period. That's the end of the number. So I'm going to do 65, period. There we go. And then I can line my decimals up. Do y'all see that? What's going to go in front of my second decimal? 19. What goes behind my second decimal? 97. Now some of y'all are good at picking how many zeros we need to add before I even write the problem out. This visually makes it even more obvious. How many zeros do I need to add on here? 2, because I need 1 above the 9 and 1 above the 7. Okay. That, I can promise you, there is a question on your 9 weeks test where you have to add a decimal after the whole number. Okay. All right. 0 plus 7 is? 0 plus 9? Keep our decimal. Remember, it's in a line. Keep it there. 5 plus 9? 14. We're going to carry the 1. 1, 6, and 1 is 8. So I get 84.97. All right, we have another addition one. So I'm going to start by just writing out 10.239. Remember, what's my rule for my decimals? Line them up. So I'm going to go ahead and line it up directly underneath. Guys, I really think it's easier. If you'll put your decimals in a straight line, then add your other numbers, it lines it up for you. What goes in front of my decimal? 4. And behind it? 9. Do I need any zeros here? Yeah, in fact, I need 2 of them. Okay. Sometimes I need zeros on top like I did on 6. Sometimes I need zeros on the bottom. 9 plus 0 is? 3 plus 0? 2 plus 9? Carry our 1. 1, 0, and 4? And 1 with nothing is? All right, make sure you bring your zero down, your decimal down in a straight line. Any questions about number 7? All right, this is super boring because we already know how to do all of it, right? Okay, let's look at number 8. Subtracting. I'm going to start with my first number, 90.4. Guys, did we get to move that around? Leave it just like it is, 90.4. I'm going to go ahead and put my decimal directly underneath. What goes in front of that decimal? 28. And behind that decimal? 58. Now this is where we might have to borrow, so we're going to have to be really careful. All right, do I need to add any zeros in? Yeah, after the... All right, let's be very, very careful on our borrowing here. Can I do 0 minus 8? No. So I'm going to borrow. 4 is going to become 3, and that goes next door. So now I have 10 minus 8 is 2. Are we okay so far on our borrowing? No? We're not okay? Are there any questions on what we've done? Now, I know we can't do 3 minus 5. But does everyone understand how we borrowed so far? Okay. All right. So, y'all are correct. We cannot do 3 minus 5, so I need to borrow next door. Can I take from 0? So I'm going to borrow from 9. 9 becomes 8. Now, the 1 I took can go next door. It has to make a 10. And now can I borrow from 10? So now 10 makes a 9, and I pass it next door. The 1 just goes in front, making the number 13. 13 minus 5 is? 8. 9 minus 8 is? 1. And 8 minus 2 is? And you can see I've made sure to bring my decimal down in a straight line. All right, let's do number 9 together. It's multiplying, so what am I going to do about my decimal? Just leave them out. Just don't. Just don't. Act like it's not there. 295 times 6, 2. 2 times 5 is? 10. Carry the 1. 2 times 9? 18 plus the 1. Carry the 1. 2 times 2? 4. Plus the 1? All right, so I'm done with those 1s, done with the 2. Before I multiply by the 6? 0 is placeholder. 6 times 5? 30. So it looks like we have 2 zeros there. Make sure you have the 0 from the placeholder and the 0 from 30. 6 times 9? 54 plus 3. 6 times 2? 12 plus 5? 17. All right, y'all double check my math. I feel like it looks weird. Are we sure that's good? Yeah? Okay. All right, 0 and 0? 0. 9 and 0? 5 and 7? 12. Carry the 1. 1 and 7? And then we have, how many numbers do I need after the decimal here, Peyton? 2. There's 1, 2. So there's 1, 2, and then my decimal. All right, we're going to look at 10, and then that will leave you with 11 through 20. All right, so for number 10, what number is going at the door? 4, because it's second. And then in the house we have 23.58. All right. What do I need to do to my decimal? Gabby? Raise it up. Is there a decimal at the door? No. So do I have to move it at all? Just raise it straight up. Can 4 go into 2? 4 will go into 23. 5 times. 5 times 4 is? When I subtract, I get? Let's bring down the 5. 4 will go into 35. 8 times. What's 8 times 4? 32. When I subtract, I get? 3. Bring down our 8. 4 will go into 38. How many times? 9. 9 times 4 is? 36. When I subtract, I get? 2. What do I need to do? I need to add another 0. So I'm going to make my line a little longer. Add a 0 and bring it down. How many times will 4 go into 20? 5. 5 times 4? And when I subtract, I get? 0. So I get 5.895. 5.895. All right, guys, that gives you a good example. That leaves you with 10 problems to do. Yes, Noah? There is a problem with 15. Thank you. On number 15, there is a problem with that. Number 15, we're going to change that problem. And we're going to change that problem to say 3.45 divided by 2.5. So that was 3.45 divided by 2.5. Okay, so make sure you change number 15.